The day begins before the light. Rome is still a dark shape, roofs and arches and watchtowers pressed against a sky that has not chosen its colour. In a small stone room under the street, a man sits with his back to a damp wall. His name is not written anywhere. To the scribe he is only one line, damnatus ad crucem, condemned to the cross. To the guards he is the slave. To himself he is the sound of his own breath in the cold, and the beating of his heart that does not want to stop. Moist air licks the lamps and makes them hiss. A rat skims across the straw. From above, the city murmurs. Somewhere far off, a cart squeaks. A rooster calls from a yard where there is bread to bake and a child to wake, and a door that opens without fear. Down here there is no door that opens. There is only a grate where stale air moves, and a slot where a clay cup is pushed in and out. The cup tastes of old sour wine and iron. He is a household slave. He was born far from Rome, brought as a boy on a ship that rolled and rolled until even the sky seemed to tilt. In the market he watched men's hands, the way one watches dogs. Are they gentle or will they bite? A man in a white Diogo toga bought him and named him for himself, as some masters do. From that day on, the boy's name belonged to the master's house like a table or a lamp. He learned to sweep stone floors with straw so that the dust did not rise. He learned to carry water so that jars did not knock his knees. He learned to keep his face still and his steps soft. He learned when to speak and when to swallow words whole. He learned the smell of oil lamps, bronze polish, warm bread, wet wool, and the master's scent after the morning bath, olive oil with a twist of bay. He learned Rome's rules, that a free man's anger is a storm, and a slave's anger is a secret river that must sink or it will drown you. Now he has learned another rule. Rome does not forget. Rome remembers your error the way a scar remembers the knife. The charge is written on a wooden tablet, tied with twine, hanging by the cell door. It will be tied later to a plank and carried ahead of him. The letters are strong and simple, the sort a boy copies in wax when he first learns to write. Effie, a thief and one who defied orders. The word contumax is heavy. It means stubborn. It means he did not bow quickly enough when told. It means his mouth or his eyes spoke when his tongue did not. In a world built on obedience, stubbornness is a crime that can be made into an example. How did it begin? With a loaf of bread set aside for dinner that was found torn, with a missing fig from the polished bowl, with a small silver salt spoon that went from a tray to a sleeve to a pocket, or perhaps it was only thought so, with an overseer who said, "Answer me directly," and a young man whose eyes, just for a heartbeat, did not look down. With a slap, with another, with a word said too sharply by a mouth that had been quiet for years. With a push, a stumble, a crash of pottery on the mosaic, with the overseer's pride ripped open in front of others. Rome hates a scratch on a mask. The law will sand the scratch away and half the face with it. He does not run through these scenes because there is nothing to be changed. In this place, under the city, you learn to let the mind sit still, or it will claw at the walls like an animal and leave bloody lines. He can hear water dripping. He counts the drops until the count becomes the sound. He thinks of a fig tree near the countryside villa, its green smell when the fruit is soft. He thinks of the collar he wore as a boy, a metal circle with words stamped into it. "Hold me, do not let me run, return me to my master." He thinks of the day they removed it and how light his neck felt, and how he carried that light like a secret. He thinks of iron again. Above him the city is waking. Rome wakes early. Bakers feed coals. Fishmongers pull back the cloth from heaps of silver bodies that still smell of the sea. Mule hooves tap a slow beat on the stones. At the Forum, men lean against columns and speak of debts, lawsuits, and news from the provinces. A soldier laughs. A seller of figs calls out his price. A lector, one of the magistrate's men, ties the leather thongs of his rods tight. These rods are bound around axes, the fasces, and they are a picture of power, to beat, to bind, to kill. The emblem will be carried to the place of judgment like a banner of the city's spine. Light thin as milk slides down the prison's stair and touches the edge of the floor. The door clanks. A guard looks in, counting heads he already counted. He carries a keyring like a small iron wind chime. He nods to the slave the way men nod to the weather. It is there. There is nothing to do about it. You will go at first light, he says, not unkind, not kind. The slave asks for water. The guard shrugs and pushes the cup through the slot. The water tastes old, but it is water. When the slave hands the cup back, their fingers touch. His fingers are calloused from rope and tool handles. The guards are calloused from staff and door. Their lives have rubbed different objects, but made the same rough skin. In a different part of the city, the master has already finished his morning bread. He speaks to his steward about shipments of garum sauce and a letter from a cousin in Capua. He says, "Have they taken care of the matter?" The steward nods. He knows what matter means. Households have many matters. The steward will not say the slave's name. He will say only, "Yes, it will be done today." The master glances at a small household shrine in the corner and makes a sign to the gods with thumb and two fingers. He is a Roman. He believes in the order of things. This order has many hands. There are the hands that harvest grain. There are the hands that grind it. There are the hands that bake and the hands that buy. There are the hands that count coins and the hands that pass them. There are the hands that lift the rods and axes when Rome must show its teeth. A city is not only marble and law. It is a web of hands doing what they are told, or else. The slave remembers the court, the basilica hall, where his fate was spoken. The floor shone like still water. The magistrate sat on a high chair. The lictors stood like trees behind him. The steward spoke for the master because the master did not need to stain his own mouth with this. Witnesses spoke. The overseer, his cheek still purple, held the room with his voice. A scribe scratched letters in wax. The slave said no once, then no again, then nothing, because each word felt like a stone that made the water rise around his throat. The law is clear for slaves. A free poor man who steals may be beaten, or sent to the mines, or set to the oar. A slave who steals, or who speaks back, or who strikes a free man may be used to teach a lesson. Crucifixion is not only a penalty, it is a message a city writes in flesh where every passerby can read it. Roads are for traffic, markets are for trade, and execution grounds are for warnings. They stand outside the gates so that life in the city can go on without the taste of it too near, but close enough that no one forgets. Down in the cell, the slave thinks of roads. He remembers the Appian Way in summer, white dust on sandals, heat dancing above stone. He remembers watching men pass, senators in litters, soldiers in pairs, merchants with their slaves hauling bales of wool, peasants with baskets of figs, boys chasing each other with reeds. If you stand still long enough by a Roman road, you can see the world go by. Today he will be part of that moving picture, not as a watcher, but as a sign. A young woman in the cell across the corridor begins to sing. Her voice slides up a narrow path and perches on the edge of it. The tune is not Roman. It is from the hills beyond the sea, the kind of song you hear when goats scatter at dusk and someone calls them home with a reed pipe. A guard grunts for silence. The song trickles to a stop. Silence returns like a heavy cloak. The slave presses his forehead to the cool wall and draws in a long breath as if the wall itself were a field. When the first clean light spills down the steps, the lictors come. Their rods look harmless until you consider the bodies they have met. The chief guard points. The door is opened, rope is brought, the slave's wrists are bound. Not cruelly, simply. The tablet with the charge is taken down and tied to a small pole that will be carried in front. The scribe wipes his stylus on a scrap of wool and tucks it behind his ear. There is no anger in these men, there is only work. On the way up, the air changes from wet to dry. The city's breath falls on his skin. Smoke, bread, animals, sweat, the river's damp sweetness. He blinks at the light. The world is a grey gold bowl. Behind the prison, a line waits. 2 thieves, a deserter from a cohort, and him. Their crimes hang on their poles like little wooden mouths speaking simple words. Citizens walk past and do not walk past. Some look away. A boy with a piece of honey cake stares openly until his mother tugs his sleeve. "Don't point," she whispers, "eat." The slave's body is tired, but wired with a high, thin wire of fear. He notices everything. The way the lictor's sandals are patched with fresh leather, the way a dog noses a broken jug and licks the glaze for taste, the way the sun glances off a bronze gate and throws a coin of light on the road. He sees a woman with a bundle of linen on her head and thinks of laundry days, the slap of cloth on stone, the laugh that flashed like a fish out of the dull water of work. He wishes to catch that laugh in his hands and keep it warm for 1 more hour. The centurion steps near and looks them over. He is thick in the neck and calm, a man who knows his job and believes in it. "You carry your crossbeam soon," he says, more to the lictors than to the condemned. "Don't drop it. We don't want to be here all day." The word crossbeam. Patibulum is a block in the mouth. It is not the whole cross. That upright post waits out at the place of execution. The beam will be hoisted on the condemned shoulders, arms tied out to it so that the back bows and cannot protect itself. Before that there will be the lashes. Rome often opens the back before it closes the body on wood. The flagrum hangs on a peg. Leather thongs weighted with knots and small bits of bone or bronze. Its voice on skin is a wet thud. The slave breathes and keeps his eyes level. He has learned to drop his eyes, but today he keeps them up. He is not planning a brave speech. He is not planning anything. He is only refusing to make himself smaller than he already is. Inside his chest, something stands up. They move. The line goes through streets that the slave has walked 1,000 times behind a tray or a bucket. The paving stones are ovals worn smooth by years of feet and hooves. He knows where the water runs after rain. He knows where the shadows will fall at noon. He knows this city like a servant knows a house, every corner by touch. Today the city looks back at him. At the forum's edge they stop before a platform. A small crowd gathers as crows gather near a field when the plough turns earth and worms are stirred. Men who came to do business stand with their styluses idle. Women with baskets shift weight from one hip to the other. Boys whisper the charges as they read them. A Gaulish trader mutters to a friend in a thick accent. "Rome likes to show." In our village, we didn't show. His friend shrugs. Here the show is the law. The magistrate is present not to decide but to confirm. The decision has already been made. The forms must be kept. Romans believed that power must be dressed properly, the way a statue must wear the right wreath. A herald recites the charges. The slave hears the words as if from underwater. The name of the master's house is spoken cleanly, as if to show that the house is untouched by this dirt. The slave's own birth name is not said. It is lost under the city's tongue. Before the rods are raised, an older slave from some nearby shop slips through the edge of the crowd and stands where the condemned can see him. A scar rings the man's wrist where a chain once chafed skin to hard leather. He does not speak. He presses his palm flat over his heart and holds it there. In that simple press, a whole world of things is said without risk. I see you. I am you. We are many, and we are one, and today one of us is held up where all can see. The older slave's eyes shine. Then he is gone, because to linger is to invite trouble. The flagrum falls. The sound is a sound the body never forgets, even if the mind tries to step aside. It is not a sharp crack, it is a heavy splash of pain that spreads and then returns for more. You do not count the lashes, you learn the shape of the time between them. The lictor is practiced. He does his task with an even arm. He is careful not to kill here. The lesson must walk through the streets on its own legs. When it ends, a thin, dark rain has streaked the slave's back. Breath comes as if through a wicker basket, broken into thin strips, but still there. He sways and does not fall. The centurion nods once. A crossbeam is brought. It is heavier than it looks. Wood always is. The grain presses splinters into skin. The rope is looped and knotted. Arms are stretched along the beam and tied, not to comfort, but to control. The tablet with the charge is lifted and set ahead, with a man whose job is to carry it and shout the crime at corners. The procession begins. The route is a lesson in stone. It goes past the temple steps where pigeons bob, past the law courts where men in fine shoes practice cruelty with clean hands, past the baths where steam makes the air sweet, past the markets where figs glow like small lamps in baskets. Some people cross themselves with old country signs, some spit as if to keep bad luck away. Some, rich and bored, watch as if watching a play. He sees things he did not think he would see again. The corner where he once paused too long to watch two boys throw a leather ball, and the overseer pushed his shoulder. The arch under which he first kissed a girl, in the quick shadow of a passing cart. The stall where a kind fish seller once slid him a small grey fish when no one was looking and said, "Cook it fast, it is honest and poor like me." The beam bites, the rope rubs raw, the mind flickers from pain to memory to light, to a single thought with no words, only a shape, more. At a fountain, a woman steps out from the edge with a ladle and offers it toward his mouth. The lictor moves to block her. The centurion shakes his head a fraction. No? And she retreats. Her face shows the math of risk. She has children. She will not set them on the scale. She turns and pretends to rearrange her basket, and her hands shake once, then still. Beyond the gates, the air feels wider. The city's breath becomes the open breath of fields and tombs. The road narrows its crowd to those who can spare time to walk. The place is ahead, a slope where wild grass grows in poor, stubborn clumps, a place people do not name if they can help it. There are holes in the ground for posts and stains in the soil that do not fade. A carrion bird lifts off with a lazy flap and circles, patient as a moneylender. The slave stumbles and finds his foot again. He feels the world focus down to 3 points. The weight on his shoulders, the rope on his wrists, the ground under his toes. He thinks of the fig tree once more. He thinks of the collar's weight taken off years ago and the lightness that followed, and how he is wearing a different collar now, made of rope and wood, and how even so something inside him still tries to lift. He does not know why. Perhaps it is a human thing, like a seed pushing at hard soil, blind and sure. At the edge of the field, he hears a sound that does not belong to this place. A flute, thin and reedy, played by a boy watching sheep. The tune is simple. It comes from a land before law. A lictor curses and tells the boy to stop. The boy stops, but the last notes hang in the air like a smell you cannot wave away. They halt. The centurion raises his hand. The lictors adjust grips. The man with the tablet steps to the side. The posts wait. The slave turns his head and sees, just beyond the crowd, a stand where a seller has brought watered wine. He remembers that in some places men are given a drugged drink at the last to dull the mouth's fear. He does not know if Rome will allow it today. He does not know if he would take it if offered. He is suddenly hungry for the taste of real grape, the sting and the sweetness, anything that is not iron. The magistrate's clerk opens a small box and takes out seals and cords. Even here the forms will be kept. Rome binds not only bodies, but words. The centurion looks at the slave's face, long and directly, as if to find there a thing he has seen before and cannot name. "It is a hard road," he says, not asking for a reply. "Walk it quickly. It is a strange kindness, like a hand on a shoulder that must soon press down." The slave lifts his head. He looks at the tall brown post that will be his sky. He looks at the people who have come to watch, their eyes shining with fear, with pity, with hard interest, with nothing at all. He looks beyond them to the line of dark cypresses along the road of tombs, pointing at a heaven that is not his. A bee folds itself into a yellow flower at his feet, doing the old work of the world, blind to this new work. He draws one slow breath that fills him from the base of his throat to the small knot under his ribs, and in that breath he makes a simple choice that no law can touch. He will look at everything. He will not close his eyes. If they make him a sign, he will read the city back. He will carry the last page with his eyes open, and then, from somewhere behind the press of onlookers, a voice calls his birth name. A name he has not heard aloud in years. The name given by a mother whose face is a fading flame in his mind. The sound slices through the heat and the pain and the law like a knife through a ripe fig. He turns to find the mouth that spoke it. The sound cuts him open because it is not the sound of Rome. It is the sound beneath Rome, the small private shell around a life that the city cannot own. His birth name is simple and soft, a river stone of a word. It was meant to be said at a doorway at dusk, meant to be called from a field when the goats go the wrong way, meant to be whispered into a child's hair. It has not been heard in the courts, or written in the scribe's wax, or stamped on the collar he once wore. It belongs to a place without marble. He turns. The crowd is a thick hedge of faces. For a moment the world arranges itself, the crossbeams leaning like fallen gates, the lictors with their rods tucked under their arms, the centurion with his arms folded on his chest, the tablet man holding up the plank with the charge, the curious, the busy, the bored. And there, slipped between a grain seller and a boy with a reed flute, is a woman with a basket of linen on her head and a small leather pouch tied at her waist. Her hair is streaked with ash grey, her eyes are dark wells. When he sees her, the road goes quiet. He knows her in layers, first as a shadow in the laundry courtyard of the house years ago, where steam rose and wet cloth slapped stone, then as a voice that hummed country songs over the rattle of the wringer. Then as a pair of hands that were quick with knots and kinder than they had to be. She was an older house slave then, bought long before him, and later, through some slow, careful miracle of coins hidden and favours called, she bought her freedom and went out through the gate as a freedwoman, with the master's family name added to the front of hers, as the law requires. But the truth of her name, like his, is older. She is breathless now, as if she has been running. The centurion's gaze moves toward her and then away. She is not his problem yet. She keeps to the edge of the crowd. She does not try to break the line. She only stands where he can see her, and, shaped by her lips alone, gives him the name again. It reaches him whole. The rope on his wrists bites with each heartbeat. The wood presses splinters through the raw lash marks. He cannot move to her. He does not ask to. He is a man between the law's teeth. But something that the law cannot bite hardens in him. He lifts his chin a little. The little motion is a bridge that reaches across the dust. The centurion signals, and the line inches forward. The ground beyond the gate rises, the posts wait in their holes like teeth set in a jaw. The city's voice thins behind them and becomes the larger voice of the plain. Wind in grass, the soft soar of insects, the far, slow groan of a wagon on the Appian road. A few tombs stand close, their carvings of faces and letters already rubbed down by weather and time. Names are a kind of fence the rich can build around their dead. Poor people are lucky if their names live 2 winters past them. Slaves' names are light smoke. The woman moves with the crowd. She keeps him within her sight line, the way a shepherd keeps a lamb. When the line stops, she stops. When the lictors lift their rods to shift them across a rut in the ground, she waits and begins again. Her basket sways on her head with the neat grace of long practice. The little leather pouch at her belt knocks lightly against her hip. It could hold a loaf, or figs, or something that wears no smell at all. Items you buy only with whisper and look. A boy edges near her, the same boy who played the reed. His feet are dust white, his face sun-browned. He looks from the woman to the condemned and back again, reading the air, the way animals do. She bends the smallest amount and murmurs to him. He nods, slips away through legs and cloak hems, and comes up near the front like a fish finding the quiet water behind a rock. He is a courier of the old world, the world of glances and errands and favours that do not leave marks. The lictors set the beams down for a moment's pause so ropes can be tightened. The slave's breath moves in thin reeds. Pain shifts like a flock of small birds under his skin. If he does not move too suddenly, they will only flutter, not scatter into panic. He uses the pause to look at the woman again. Her mouth shakes one more silent word. Water? He shakes his head, because the centurion's earlier refusal still holds the air. The last man who tried to help had been warned off. The woman's jaw tightens and then relaxes. She does not look away. Around them, Roman life continues because Roman life always does. A mule driver clicks his tongue at his team and guides them in a curve around the crowd. A pair of soldiers, off duty, stop to watch and eat olives from a clay bowl, tossing the pits into the dust. A beggar with a blind left eye holds out his palm and sings a chant for alms. When no one moves, he sings it again. In the distance, someone is shaping wood with a draw knife, and the curls fall with a sound like light rain. All around the sharp point of this place, the wide, dull wheel of the day turns on. The centurion gives a small nod. The scourged backs and bound wrists are measured with one long look for strength left in them. The men with ropes choose the holes in the ground for the posts based on the length of arms, the height of the beam carriers, the convenience of the slope. This is not a temple ritual. There is no priest. The practical is the sacred here. Do the work so the warning will stand. Keep the warning simple so the lesson is clear. Rome likes to teach with large letters. A seller of watered wine and herbs arrives with a little stand and a bucket. He is allowed near because he pays a small fee to the guard captain each week for the right to set up wherever a crowd gathers. He offers a cup to anyone with coin, and when the line of condemned draws level, he glances to the centurion. A question. Some cities in the east mix myrrh or other plant saps into wine as a kindness to dull the edges of pain. Here, it depends on the officer. The centurion's face is unreadable. He gives a small motion of his chin that is not yes and not no. It is the motion of a man who will look away for the length of a swallow if no trouble grows from it. The woman with the basket is already moving. She goes to the wine cellar. A few words, a hand in the pouch, 2 small coins that make a sound like teeth when they touch. The seller's brow lifts a little, enough to show that these are more than his usual price. He lowers his ladle and dips deep. From a smaller jar he adds a little stream of something bitter sweet. He holds the cup where the condemned can see it as the line shuffles forward again. The slave looks at the cup, then at the woman. She does not gesture or plead. She has lived long enough under rules to know that every extra word is a possible knot. She only holds his eyes steady, as if to say, "This is yours to choose. No Roman can take the choosing out of your mouth." He remembers the centurion's sentence, "Walk it quickly." He remembers the inner vow he made only moments ago, "Look at everything." He has no wish to be heroic. He has no wish to be brave for show. He only wishes to keep his eyes clear for as many beats of his heart as they are left. He shakes his head again, once, not out of pride, out of hunger, for the real, even if the real is a hard fruit. The woman closes her eyes for 2 beats and opens them. The boy with the reed, who had sprung forward, ready to carry the cup to the rope-bound hands, holds still, confused, then nods, because he is quick, and returns the cup to the seller. The seller does not argue. He has sold stranger choices today. The mounting area is a small stage of earth. The upright posts lie nearby like felled trees. At their tops, pegs jut out like short horns. Lower down, a small square peg, sedile, the seat nail, protrudes. The Roman carpenters who make these have learned through long practice where to place that cruel support, so the body will not tear free too soon. Death by crucifixion is a lesson written slowly. Haste ruins the handwriting. The lictors who did the beating step back now. Their work is the opening of the body and the official blows that mark a citizen's sentence or a slave's. The soldiers step in. 2 of them take hold of the slave's beam. A third loosens the rope from the beam to the wrists and reties it with a knot he can undo fast. They do not speak much. They have done this before. Each motion sits in them like a familiar tool in a carpenter's palm. The woman presses closer without stepping past the invisible line that will earn a shove. She keeps him in her sight. She says his name once more, softly but shaped so that it carries. In that single saying is a longer speech that Roman law has no words for. You were born before Rome. Your breath is not theirs. If there is anything left to carry through this, carry your name. He carries it the only way he can, inside the cage of his ribs, where the heart drums its small drum. The soldiers angle the beam onto the ground, pull the rope, and set the wood across the slave's back again briefly, so they can get their hold. He feels the old familiar of the ground under his knees, the taste of dust, the small smooth grit of pebbles under the tongue of his sandal where the strap rubs. A fly lands on his cheek and walks its little steps. He does not shake it off because he cannot. The sky is a hard blue, almost without cloud. The sun has climbed to a place where shadows sit directly under things like obedient dogs. Time feels both thin and very wide. Someone in the crowd calls out a bitter joke. Someone else laughs too loudly. A third voice hisses for quiet. A dog barks once, and then twice. A raven hops 3 steps and tilts its head. The ordinary world does not know how to leave, even here. They lift the beam and with it him. His arms, bound outward, make his chest a door that cannot close. The breath has to work harder now, hauling itself over the lip of each rib like a climber over a wall. He keeps his eyes open because he promised himself that. He sees the edge of the woman's basket on her head. He sees the centurion watching everything with soldier's calm. He sees the small square peg on the upright that will soon bite him. He sees the place where the wood's grain swirls like a little river caught in stone. "Ready," says one soldier. The centurion nods. The beam is guided to the notch in the top of the upright. Ropes snake around and through, and 2 men pull while a third shoves the base of the post upright in its hole with a long lever. The wood rises. It makes a sound like oars taking water. The world tilts. For a breath, he is sure he will fall forward onto his face and be freed by accident. But of course he does not. The upright seats with a groan, the ropes are cinched, and the join takes. They use nails here sometimes and ropes other times. Nails are quick and loud, ropes are slower and make the lesson last longer. The centurion makes the choice, in part by habit, in part by what the day requires. Today there will be nails for the deserter. The army likes a firm message to its own, and ropes for the thieves. For the slave, the centurion points to the box of nails, and then to the soldier with the hammer. The soldier nods. He has a way of holding the hammer that keeps his wrist loose. He has done this enough to know that a stiff wrist bruises the arm for hours. The first nail will go through the wrist, not the palm. Men who do this work know that palms tear. The wrists hold. The second nail may go through the other wrist or be replaced with rope. Feet are sometimes nailed, sometimes tied and turned. The little sedile peg will be set to force the weight against the wounds. Body and beam and post will become one shape. If breath is left long enough, they will break the shins with a bark, crucifixion, to finish it. These are not secrets in Rome. The method is public knowledge, the way the recipe for bread is public. It is how the city holds a line. The soldier with the hammer steps close and sets the point against skin. He waits for the centurion's small sign. The centurion glances once more at the sky, the angle of the sun, the length of shadow, and once more at the faces in the crowd. He wants no riot, no show bigger than the law's show. He lifts 2 fingers. Just then, the woman with the basket does a thing that is both small and enormous. She lowers her basket to the ground. She steps forward to the edge of the invisible line and no further. She doesn't reach out. She doesn't grab. She doesn't cry. She simply lifts her right hand, palm out, and shows the soldier something pinched between thumb and forefinger, a small wooden tag, smoothed by many rubs of a thumb, with a name cut into it in crude letters, the kind of token a mother might give a child when a caravan leaves, the kind of token that says, "If the world steals you, bring this to anyone who knows me, and they will bring you back." It is his name cut there. Not the master's name, not slave, the name from before the sea. She does not say stop, she does not beg. She only holds up the name like a lamp in a wind. The soldier with a hammer sees it and, because he is not stone, his face twitches. Not with pity, that will change anything, with the small pain of a memory it wakes. He looks to the centurion. The centurion looks at the tag, and then at the condemned, and then at the woman. For a beat, the whole field seems to pause. The ravens, the boys, the flies, the cart in the distance, because something private has pushed its way onto this public ground. The centurion's jaw shifts. He does not lower his hand. He does not order the woman away. He is a Roman officer. He knows that a city is held by fear and by form. He also knows men are not oxen. He lets the beat pass, then gives the sign. The hammer lifts. The slave turns his head toward the woman so that she fills his last clear angle of sight. He cannot touch the tag. He cannot say his name aloud, but he can put it on the inside of his mouth like a seed and hold it there. He opens his fingers against the wood, spreads them to make room for the nail, and draws in the largest breath his open chest will allow. The hammer begins its fall through the hot bright air, and in that floating instant between sign and strike, when the world is a held breath, the boy with the reed, who had been a courier a moment ago, who has goat-quick feet and the nerve that lives only in the very young, slips hard between 2 soldiers with something small and wrapped in cloth in his fist. He aims it at the centurion's belt. The boy streaks in like a swallow, small, fast, sure of his path. His fist is wrapped in a strip of cloth. He aims not at the soldier's hand, not at the hammer, but at the centurion's belt, where a leather pouch hangs. His idea is simple, the way a child's bridge is simple. Throw a weight on one side and hope the river slows. The centurion's fingers are quicker than they look. He catches the boy by the forearm. The cloth bundle drops against his own belt and slides. A hard, small clink answers the fall. Coins. Not many. Enough to buy figs for a week. Enough to pay a fee to sell wine by a crowd. Not enough to buy law. The boy's eyes are bright and wide, but not pleading. He has the same look a shepherd's dog has when it puts itself between a lamb and a wolf. You may strike, but I will stand. A lictor snarls and swings his staff to knock the boy back. The centurion stops him with that same two-finger lift he used for the hammer. He holds the boy's forearm one more heartbeat, then lets go. He plucks up the fallen cloth, weighs it with a pinch of his fingers, and flicks his eyes once toward the woman with the basket. She does not flinch. He tosses the cloth back to her. She catches it to her chest as if it were a hot coal. The centurion lifts his hand and makes a motion to the soldier with the hammer. Not the palm down, go on that means strike as planned, but a small circle of his forefinger that means change the method. He points to the nail box and then to the rope coil. Nail, rope, rope, nail. The soldier nods. He understands. Wrist by iron, the other by cord. Feet by cord. The message will still stand. The day will still end. The boy melts away, pushed by a soldier's knee, unhurt but shaken. The woman closes her eyes one brief moment. She has not bought life. There is nothing for sale here but time and type of pain. Even that is a grace that can be taken back with a word. The hammer rises. He does not cry out when the nail goes in, not because he is brave in the way of plays, but because breath and voice tear separate in the instant the iron meets the narrow space between the wrist bones. The world becomes a white door that slams and opens and slams again. The sound is not a sharp crack. It is a thick, wet sound, like a mallet into a soaked log. The hand that is hit leaps as if it wants to run away by itself. The fingers grab at nothing and then fix into a curl they cannot uncurl from. The soldier who strikes is practiced. He finds the place where the bones cradle the iron. He keeps his wrist loose so the hammer does the work. The flesh gives. The board under the hand takes the point. The nail seats. The other wrist gets rope. The soldier loops it twice and pulls until skin goes from brown to white around it. He uses a knot he can yank loose later. The rope burns a slice into flesh that will not stop burning. It feels almost worse than the nail because it is a fire that does not move. Feet are brought to the post and crossed, not one on top of the other, but splayed and turned, a posture that robs the legs of strength and throws the weight onto the arms. Ropes bite above the ankles. The little sidal peg rises against the soft place between tailbone and thigh. It is a mock of a seat. It holds you on the wood the way a thorn holds cloth on a hedge. They hoist. The beam sets onto the upright. The joint grinds. The rope creaks. For a breath he is sure he will swing free, that the whole thing will tilt and buckle and toss him to earth. It does not. Men who do this have learned every weight, every pull. The cross stands. The body, the beam, the post become one. Breath changes after that. The chest is a door wedged open. To pull air you must push against the nail, and the peg at once, lift, drag the ribs up, taste the world, and then drop again, because pain is a cliff and you cannot hang there long. Each breath is a climb and a fall. Each word, if there were words, would cost a climb. He keeps his promise to himself. He holds his eyes open. The woman's face sits in the edge of his sight like a small moon. She has moved to a place where she is not in the soldier's way, but close enough that he can see her mouth if she shapes words. She does not weep out loud. Tears in a crowd can turn the crowd. She stands with her basket and her leather pouch and the small wooden tag pressed under her thumb. Her lips move, she says his name. She says it not to the centurion, not to the law, not to the crowd. She says it to him so that it stays real where it matters. The deserter on the next post curses until his voice frays. He begs the soldiers to kill him now and call it mercy. One of them snorts. Mercy is expensive. You have not paid. A few in the crowd laugh, with the hard laughter people use to keep fear from biting them. One of the thieves prays to every god he knows, and then to ones he makes up on the spot, promising gifts he has no power to give. The other thief grows quiet and stares at the sky, as if reading a letter written there long ago. Flies come. They land in rows on the wet places like black seeds thrown on furrows. A raven swings down to sit on the head of a post that was used last week and not yet pulled up. The bird's eye is a black bead. It is patient. It counts nothing. It has no calendar. It waits because it has learned that waiting here pays. The seller of watered wine finds a path to the centurion again. He lifts a cup in question. The centurion, who has allowed the rope in place of one nail, allows this too. He will not let the drugged wine pass, no myrrh, no poppy, but he nods for plain sour wine. The soldiers drink, the posca. The seller will make coin. The condemned will wet cracked lips, and the crowd will feel that the day is not pure iron. Such small management is part of keeping a city calm. The seller dips and holds up a cup. He raises it toward the slave's mouth. The slave bends as much as the ropes will let him. The lip of the cup touches his mouth. The taste is thin and sharp, vinegar and river. He lets a little in and swallows, and almost chokes because his throat wants more than his breath can spare. He lets the rest spill down his chin and neck. It feels like a cool hand that cannot touch. He nods once to the seller, who takes the nod as if it were the gift of a coin, and steps away. Time begins its long work. At first, every heartbeat is a flash of light and pain. Then the light starts to flicker and take shapes. He sees the short weeds at the base of the posts, already bent from many feet. He sees a line of ants hauling a dried bit of fig skin towards some black crack in the dirt. He sees a child's lost bronze pin, half covered in dust, its little horse carved on the head, one ear snapped off. He sees the woman shift her weight from one foot to the other, the way laundry women do when they have stood too long at the stone. He hears the far sound of a hawk. He smells hot resin from a pine, warm leather from a soldier's belt, the iron of his own blood. He keeps looking. The world of form around him is very old and very new at once. Just beyond the execution field, the road of tombs marches away, lined with cypress. The fronts of the tombs show faces carved in low relief and letters cut deep. To Marcus, baker of the guild, to Livia, beloved wife, to Publius, dutiful son. Some have little scenes, loaves and ovens, ships with swelling sails, a man shaking hands in the style that says contract made. The rich fence their dead with stone and words. The poor lay their dead in common ground. Slaves are often left to the birds and to time because Rome likes the lesson to last. But sometimes, when a guard looks away or a coin lands in the right palm, a friend will come at night with a sack and courage and take what Rome wanted to keep. The woman's thumb presses the wooden tag hard enough to blanch the skin. She is measuring dark paths in her mind. Heat rises. A dog picks a shade patch and sleeps. The crowd thins. There are those who love the first blows and those who love the end. The middle has less pull for the idle. People drift away to business, to baths, to bread. A few stay because their grief nails their feet to this spot. A few because they like to watch what most cannot watch. A few because they sell things by the cup or by the mouthful, and a trickle of coin is still coin. A litter passes along the roadside, bearers sweating, curtains drawn. The man inside, rich and bored, peeks out. He asks his companion some question with a lazy drawl. The companion answers. The curtain falls. The litter goes on. For a moment the slave sees the outline of the master's kind of life. Shade, perfume, soft bread, soft talk, soft hands. Then the vision moves away and is only a cloth rectangle again. The overseer from the house comes later, when the heat has flattened the air. He stands at a polite distance, as if watching a race he has bet on. His cheek, once purple, has gone yellow-green at the edges. He has chosen a fine tunic today to show clean cloth to dirt. He nods to the centurion as if to say, "Thank you for a job well done," though the centurion's work belongs to Rome, not to him. The overseer's mouth curls at one corner. When the slave's eyes meet his, the overseer lifts his hand and taps his own wrist where a metal collar would sit, as if to say, "This is what collars are for." The woman with the basket watches him the way a cat watches a snake. He feels it and turns away, because her stare makes his neck feel colder than the shade. The deserter begins to sob, big, open sobs that wrench his chest. The soldier with the hammer glances at the sun and then at the centurion. The day eats itself. The centurion makes a small mark in his mind. He does not like men to hang so long that night work is needed. Night makes trouble. Dogs come. Boys dare each other. Thieves cut at ropes to sell rope with blood on it to fools who think it has power. If the day runs long, he will finish them with the bar. The law allows it. It is called crucifixion, the breaking of the legs. It takes the last pillar from a falling roof. He files the choice away. Not yet, not while the light can still teach. The slave moves in small pulls. Lift, draw, drop. Lift, draw, drop. He does not try to speak because there is nothing to speak that will change wood or law. He watches. A gust of wind combs the grass. Dust lifts in a small twist, like a spirit without a name. The boy with the reed has climbed a low stone and sits with his knees up, arms wrapped around them, chin set. He is supposed to walk his uncle's flock outside the walls, but he cannot make himself leave. The reed lies across his lap. He runs his fingers over it, a touch without sound. He thinks of water. Not the sour wine, cold water from the spring at the villa. The sort that clears the mouth and wakes the nose with a clean smell. He thinks of the fig tree again. He thinks of the morning stones of the city, cool before the sun climbs and makes them hard to look at. He thinks of a small kindness from years ago, how a cook slid him a burned crust thick with honey and said, "Here, you are quick with the water and your hands are quiet." He thinks of the collar taken off and the air touching his neck like silk. He thinks of a night when he slept without dreams and woke with his chest not tight, and how rare that was. Memory is both knife and cloth. It cuts and it wipes the blood at the same time. The woman tries once to step closer than the line. The soldier, who has watched her patience all morning, shifts his weight to block the path. Not roughly. She stops without arguing. He points with his chin toward the stand of cypresses. "Shade," he mutters, almost a kindness. She shakes her head. He grunts and lets it be. At midday some clouds form over the hills. They are thin, like smoke from a large fire very far off. For a brief spell the light softens. He can move a bit more in that softening. He lifts, he breathes, he looks. He can see the faint writing on a tombstone to the left where the letters have worn shallow. He cannot make out the words. He mouth-shapes them anyway, as if reading might give the dead a second chance at being said. The overseer drifts away when the show no longer feeds him. He has a house to run. He has keys to jingle and doors to check. He has a story to tell in the kitchen that will make him big in the eyes of those who fear him. He leaves without looking back at the woman. She does not watch him go. She watches the knots on the ropes, as if learning them by sight for later. The centurion moves like a man counting in his head. He watches the deserter, he watches the thieves, he watches the slave, he watches the sky. He is not cruel for pleasure, which is a different face of cruelty. He is cruel by office, which wears a clean face. He shakes his waterskin, drinks, wipes his mouth with the back of his hand. He has a scar on his forearm from a Dacian blade. He has 2 sons in a town by the sea. He has a wife who wants a small gold snake bracelet and will have it when his pay comes. He will remember this day only as a line. 3 at the outer field. No trouble. The slave's head droops. He lifts it. He drops it. He lifts it again. He tries to fix the woman's face in the inside of his lids, so that if the lids must close, he will not lose her. He hears the boy's reed begin a tune, so soft it is almost only the idea of sound. The soldier who blocked the woman's path shoots the boy a look. The boy stops. The soldier looks away. The boy's fingers go back to tracing the holes in the reed without blowing. A little group comes out from the city in the late afternoon. 2 men in the master's colours, a house steward and a junior scribe. They have a small box and a tablet. They speak to the magistrate's clerk. Papers are shown. Seals are viewed. The centurion watches with the bored interest of a man who has seen many papers that mean everything to those who hold them and little to wood and rope. The steward glances up at the posts. His face does not change. He is the sort of man who is born with a quiet mouth. He has a list in his head of oil to buy, of bills to settle, of a slave boy who must be sold before he grows old enough to start trouble. He confers in a low voice. The clerk nods, shrugs, writes a little. It concerns money, not mercy. A levy for the display outside the gate that the house must pay because the condemned belonged to their household when the sentence was given. The city is careful to make even warning teach coin to walk to the right pockets. The scribe scratches and seals. The steward bows and leaves with the junior man. He does not look up again. From somewhere far, a low rumble of thunder rolls like a wagon crossing a bridge. Heads tilt. The cloud edge thickens toward the hills. A small wind begins to move, as if someone far away were loosening a door. The centurion catches the sign with a soldier's nose. Storm or no storm, he will not play with night. He steps to the deserter's post and studies the man's chest. The ribs heave like bellows with holes in them. The centurion nods to the soldier with the hammer and the bar. The soldier picks it up. It is not a delicate tool. It is the sort of thing used to break a wheel or crack a big joint of wood. The deserter sees it and screams. The sound is the sound of a reefed sail tearing. 2 blows and the legs twist wrong. Breath goes thick. The chest cannot lift. The sound dies like a fire with the oil poured off of it. The soldier steps to the first thief and waits for the nod. The centurion shakes his head. Not yet. He wants the front of the sky to draw nearer. He looks to the slave. The slave is still lifting and falling, slower. The woman sees the bar. She knows what it means. She does not make a sound. She watches the centurion and counts his measures. She counts the time the soldier takes to walk from one post to the other. She counts how many people stand near who would speak if silver changed hands in the wrong way. She looks once at the boy. He tightens his jaw. He slides the reed into his belt. He looks like a small tree that will bend in a storm but not break if the root holds. Light lowers. The field shifts colour from pale coin to copper. The ravens grow bolder. The seller of wine counts his coins and begins to pour the last cups. A breeze carries the smell of rain. The city bell for the afternoon market sounds. A woman far off laughs and then stops as if she remembered where she was. The centurion makes his choice. He lifts his hand and points the bar toward the second thief. The soldier moves, the thief whimpers. The bar rises. "Wait," the magistrate's clerk says, stepping in with an ink-stained hand raised. There is another matter. He is like all clerks, bold when standing under the shape of a seal. He unfurls a narrow strip of wax notes. The house steward has left coin with me for the removal of the body at dusk, if law allows. He says, by the master's order, for the sake of public cleanliness. This is not kindness to a slave. This is a house's wish to keep the name of the house from being pointed at tomorrow when carrion birds feed. It is also a way to ensure the overseer tells his story without the sight of dogs in it. The centurion looks at the clerk, he looks at the woman, he looks at the sky again, darker now at the rim. He grunts something that might be consent, might be indifference. He does not care who hauls the wood when the lights go out, so long as the day has done its work in full. The woman hears the words and knows what they mean, not a tomb with letters, not a funeral with oil and song, but a chance. A chance not to leave him on the post until bone show, a chance to hold his head once more where the ground is level. Her fingers loosen on the tag and then tighten again. She is making and unmaking plans with every beat of her heart. The centurion turns back to the posts. He nods to the soldier with the bar, and then, after a beat that is almost gentle, points the bar past the slave. Later, he says, a word that in his mouth is only a measure, not a mercy. He will let the slave hang into the edge of evening. It is a small cost to the law and buys space for the storm and the clerk and the cart that will carry what must be carried. The slave lifts and falls. He tastes rain in the wind now, a clean taste even when mixed with iron and dust. He lets the taste sit on his tongue until it goes away. He looks at the woman. She has moved her basket to ground and is knotting her scarf tighter under her chin. Her eyes do not leave him. When the next breath will not come, and then does, a slow astonishment ripples through him at the fact that a body can still do what it has been told to stop doing. He thinks, in a wordless way, of the seed in earth pushing up. Thunder speaks again, closer. The centurion raises his hand to finish the day, and at the edge of the field, jolting in from the road of tombs with a rattle like bones in a jar, a small handcart bumps into view, driven fast, piled with rough cloth and a coil of rope, and on its handle is the master's steward, breathless, with the junior scribe running beside him, holding up a fresh wax tablet, still wet with a seal. The steward is shouting something. The steward's cart rattles like loose teeth. He is pale with haste, but his mouth is set. The junior scribe trots beside him, arm held high so the wet seal on the wax will not smear. They are men of errands, not pity. They are here to make sure the house does not leave its mark on the night sky. No dogs, no boys with stories, no talk in the morning market that the master's slave fed birds outside the gate. They push through the fringe of the crowd. The steward bows to the magistrate's clerk, low, smooth, and shows the tablet again. He bows to the centurion less low. By order of the master, he says, and by the fee already given. His eyes slide over the posts without changing. If they change, his face breaks, and his long work will be harder tomorrow in the kitchen halls. The centurion glances from tablet to sky. The cloud has thickened. The wind rises from the hills and comes down the road like a messenger with news it cannot hold much longer. He nods. At dusk, he says, not before. His voice is flat. He points with his chin to a bare patch of ground at the field's edge. Wait there. The steward obeys. He lines up the cart. He checks the coil of rope, the rough cloth, the short pry bar. He looks like a man laying out spoons. The junior scribe stands with the wax notes and looks away from the posts, working very hard at not seeing. He is young. He still has a heart that jumps without orders. The woman with the basket sees the cart. Her mouth draws tight, not with anger, but with a problem that is now closer. If the house takes the body, it will be fast and cold. It will go on the cart like a sack of grain. The name in her hand will not be said. A hole will be found where no letters are cut. The overseer will sleep with a calm dream. She turns her tag under her thumb and keeps counting. On the posts, the day grows taller and then tired. The deserter is gone now. The bar did its work. He hangs heavy, head fallen forward. A fly drinks from the corner of his open mouth. One thief fights for air with a low animal sound. The other has gone very still, in the quiet way that is not yet death, but is the long hall just before it. The slave lifts and falls. His world has narrowed to the nail, the rope, the peg, the breath. But he still sees. He sees the woman's scarf knot. He sees the boy's small, square shoulders, as if the boy were trying with will alone to hold the sky up. He sees the steward's hard, clean hands. He sees the centurion's eyes moving the way a farmer's eyes move over weather, crop and wall, making small choices that decide if winter will be lean or full. A smell comes then, the first fat drops of rain hitting hot dust. It is a sharp, sweet smell that cuts through iron and sweat. The crowd twitches its heads. Faces turn toward the hills as if watching a play for a signal. A few people who care more for their cloaks than for shows begin to step away. The mother pulls her son by the wrist. The boy drags his feet, trying to keep the crossbeam in view for one more beat, with the hungry eyes of children who stare at the things their elders fear. Thunder speaks again, closer now. Not a crash, more like a great door closing down a long stone hall. The cypresses along the road of tombs shiver. The ravens flap once and lift higher. The centurion's jaw ticks. He has a clock in him that no one can see. It begins to count faster. He calls a soldier over and gives short orders that are only hands and eyes. Finish the second thief with the bar when I lift my hand. Hold the slave until the light goes low, then break if needed. He does not say why. He does not say, because rain will turn the ground to paste and boys will slip under the rope. He does not say, because the steward has paid and I will not have a fight with a house. He does not say, because I am tired and a wet night makes trouble grow. He only points and the soldier nods. The woman hears the thunder and feels time press her like a hand between shoulder blades. She steps toward the wine cellar again. Her pouch is lighter now. The seller reads her face. He shrugs, then nods, then tips his jar. No poppy, he whispers. No myrrh. He won't allow it. She shakes her head. Not for him, she says.
For them. She flicks her eyes toward two rough men standing near the steward's cart. Day laborers the steward must have hired at the gate to lift what needs lifting. They have the sleepy, flat look of men who will do what they are told and not ask what it means until later when drink comes. The seller blinks. He looks at the centurion and then at the sky. Quick, he says, and fills 2 cups. The woman carries the cups like a queen carries oil in a jar. Steady, high, sure. She moves toward the cart as if taking shade, and there, with the long practice of someone who has filled 1,000 cups at a washstone and passed them to tired hands, she gives each man a drink, smiling with no teeth, her eyes kind. For the rain, she says softly, they drink. It is only sour wine with a little honey she bought that morning. It does not dull the head. It warms the throat. It makes a habit in the hand that holds the cup. It makes that hand remember her face without knowing why. She turns then and stands again. Where he can see her mouth, she says his name. She says it once, and the sound in her throat is as simple as a child's prayer. The boy slides down from his stone and draws close to her side, reed tucked against his belt. Auntie, he whispers, the man with the stick, he will break the legs. She nods once. I know. The boy's jaw sets. We can make them late. She looks at him. He is small weather, bright, wild, quick to change, and also a little rock. Hard in the way that lives under soft grass. Not with noise, she says, with knots. She touches the coil on the steward's cart with her eyes and then returns to the posts as if the glance were nothing. The boy's eyes flash. He presses his lips closed. He has goat hands, fast, sure, good with rope. He learned from his uncle on the hills. Rain begins, slow, heavy drops at first, each one a new sound. Dust darkens in circles, cloaks go up, heads hunch. The smell grows stronger, clean and deep. The first hard clap of thunder comes with light. It tears a white seam across the low cloud. For a breath, every line in the field is sharp as a cut. The posts look like iron pens drawing letters on the sky. The centurion lifts his hand. The soldier with the bar steps to the second thief. The thief sees and tries to curl around his legs as if his own body could guard what is left to him. The soldier is a professional. He does not swing wild. 2 measured blows. Bone gives. The breath stops lifting. The eyes go far. The mouth opens to a sound that does not come. The soldier moves away, face blank, jaw hard. He has knocked the air out of 100 chests in drills. There is little difference now, except for the eyes of the women watching. The centurion looks to the slave. He hesitates, measuring light, cloud, and coin. He lowers his hand. Not yet. One more stretch of lesson for Rome. One more stretch for the steward's cart to wait, for the woman's eyes to dig paths through the day. The woman steps back into the crowd and then out again on the far side of the cart. The 2-day laborers, warmed by her cups, look at her with a small softness now. She does not beg. She points to the coil and says, "The knots slip when wet. Tie them twice." One man grunts. "We know rope." She nods. "Tie them the laundress way." She does a quick twist with her fingers in the air. The old washer's double that will hold while cloth is wrung and will spill fast if tugged right. The men watch her fingers. Their hands copy the shape without thinking. Their bodies remember it from their mother's yards. She steps away again and stands where the soldier who blocked her before can see her face. She lets him see that face, calm and sure and tired and without heat. He has watched her all day out of the corner of his eye. He has an old mother outside a different gate who has hands like her hands. He looks away first. He spits toward the cypresses and mutters a curse at the rain that is really a prayer to whatever god keeps men inside their skins. The boy has already slid behind the cart. He makes a game of the coil. He loops a circle, ties the laundress double, and leaves the tail laid neat, like a smile. He does it twice, thrice. His hands move like mice. Quick, quiet. He is close enough to see the steward's ring, a small iron thing with the master's sign cut into it for sealing. He is close enough to smell the steward's oil. Cheap olive, not bay. He is close enough that if he breathes too loud, the steward will feel the breath on his wrist. He breathes small. The slave's world lifts and drops. Rain finds his lashes and sits there like tiny magnifying glasses. Every drop makes the light break. Water runs over his split skin and stings and then cools. The nail in his wrist has its own weather, its own season, hot, dry, then wet, then burning again. He tastes the rain when it finds his mouth. He does not close his eyes. He watches the woman move her lips with his name and he listens to thunder. He thinks, in a slow, clear way, about what can still be chosen when all the big choosing has been taken. He can choose to watch. He can choose to hear. He can choose to lift one more time and give the lungs one more patch of air and then spend it on a last small thing that is his. He can choose not to curse the world out loud. He can choose to let the name in the woman's hand be the last word that travels between 2 human hearts here today. The centurion steps toward him with the soldier who carries the bar. They stand under the post. Looking up through the rain, the centurion shades his eyes with one hand. Water runs off his knuckles. He measures the rise and fall. He is thinking of distance to the gate, of mud, of a mule whose shoe is loose, of the steward's coin, of the clerk's seal, of the fact that soldiers slip in wet grass and hurt their backs. And then the tribune asks hard questions. He nods toward the bar and then holds up 2 fingers. Wait the short time it takes for 2 breaths. If he lifts twice more, break. If not, do not waste iron. It is not mercy. It is the math of a day. The boy slides back to the woman's side. His eyes are bright. He tilts his chin the smallest bit toward the cart. She does not look. Looking gives things away. She keeps her eyes on the slave and says his name. A gust pushes rain sideways and sends a sheet of water across the field. The wine seller covers his jars with a cloth. The ravens circle lower in the gray. The steward checks his rope. He does not see the knots for what they are. Knots are knots to him. He counts the cloths. He checks the pry bar, the short iron hook to catch a beam when a man goes slack. He is ticking boxes in his head. He thinks of the kitchen's heat and the way soft fat crackles when pork hits the pan. He thinks of his wife's slow temper and the way she will say, "Late again?" He thinks of the master's little bronze scale and the tiny weights that look like ducks and nuts and frogs, silly shapes for an exact thing. He thinks, in a small, quiet place, of the first time he saw a man on wood and how he could not eat for 2 days after, and how he trained his mouth to chew after that because chewing is the job of the living. The thunder cracks right overhead. For a breath, the world is all noise and white. The soldier with the bar flinches in spite of himself. The centurion does not. He has stood under worse. He raises his hand. The soldier steps to the post. The slave lifts. It is not high. It is not proud. It is a slow, stubborn lift from the nail, from the peg, from the ropes. Ere his body finds the old path one more time. The chest opens. The air comes in. It tastes like wet stone and tin and a last crushed grape. He looks down through rain and sees the woman's face, steady as a small lamp in wind. He sees the boy beside her, like a stake in new ground. He sees the steward's cart as if it were a boat on a gray river. He drops. The breath leaves with a low sound. The centurion says to himself. He watches. He waits. The soldier with the bar sets his feet. The rain slicks the wood. The ants at the base of the post have disappeared into their crack. The world holds itself still for a count. The slave lifts again.
His mouth opens, not in a cry, but in a shape that is almost a word. It is not why, it is not no. It is a sound that would be his name if the air were longer. He lifts, and the chest opens, and his eyes do not look away. The centurion lowers his hand. The soldier steps. He sets the bar. He draws a breath. He looks at the centurion again, a quick reflex of men who have done hard tasks together. The centurion gives the small nod that finishes things, and just then the steward shouts, "Hold!" His voice is too loud for a steward. It cracks and tumbles. He is pointing at the wax tablet. The junior scribe is holding it up with shaking hands. The rain has blurred the edge of the seal. The mark is still there, but thin. The clerk starts and turns. "Fool," he snaps, not to the centurion, not to the steward, but to the rain. He rushes forward, the seal held high. By order, now! The body to be removed at once to prevent disorder in foul weather. He has found the words that make an officer turn aside without losing face. Public order. The centurion grimaces. He hates to be forced by paper, but he loves order more than he hates paper. He raises his hand, palm open, a broad sign that even in rain says, "Stop. Change." The soldier pulls the bar back. With a small, grateful breath, he does not let anyone see. The woman's lips part. A path opens in front of her that she did not think would open. It is not the path she wanted, the one where the last breath finishes on its own, but it is a path. It has mud and rope and men in it. It has hands that must move right. It has eyes that must be turned for 3 heartbeats at the same time. The centurion gestures short and sharp. "Down," he tells his men. Fast. The storm is his ally. He will use it to clear the field. He will have the posts empty before the sky goes black and the road turns to soup. The soldiers set their hooks and lines. The steward rolls the cart closer, wheels sinking a thumb into the wet ground. The 2-day labourers grab the rope coil, those ropes now tied with the laundress doubles, and hurry to the base of the post. The woman steps back 2 paces to hide behind a taller man so that when she looks up, no one reads her face. The boy leans forward like a runner at the start of a race. A soldier slaps the knot at the slave's ankle to loosen it. Rain has made the rope swell. It resists. He curses and jerks. The laundress double holds, neat and proud. "Knife," he barks. Another soldier fumbles at his belt. The blade comes up. The first soldier slices. The rope spills at once, because that is what the double was born to do when pulled the right way. He thinks he has won the fight with wet hemp and grunts. He does not see the boy's small breath leave in a pulse of quiet joy. They work fast. One soldier climbs a low ladder they carry for days like this, braces a shoulder to the beam and loosens the wrist rope knot in a practiced yank. The carpenter's pegs are freed. Another soldier pries the nail with the claw of a small iron lever, a tool made for this and nothing else. The nail comes out with a sound like a cork pulled from a jar. Blood darkens in the rain. "Ready," someone says. The centurion points. "Now." The beam dips, the body sags, the men lower step and guide as if moving a table through a narrow door. The world tilts, the wood comes down. The slave's feet touch earth for the first time since morning. It is mud now, cool and soft. He does not have strength to stand. They let him fold. He crumples like cloth and lies on his side. The rain drums on his back. His breath is shallow and fast and hot in the cool air. The woman steps in, a half pace before the soldier with the bar, blocks her with his hip. She stops, she nods. She does not fight, not now. "On," the centurion says, to the steward and his men, and looks away. He does not care to watch what follows. It is not soldier's work now. It is housework. He walks to the other posts and gives short orders that clear them too. The steward moves like a man at a threshing floor, quick, exact, not cruel, only efficient. "Cloth," he says. The day labourers unfurl it. He and the men roll the slave onto it. The woman cannot help herself. She drops to one knee and slides her hand under the slave's head to keep it from hitting stone. The soldier with the bar grunts, but lets her hand stay because it changes nothing for the law and something for her neck. The woman's fingers find the line of his hair, wet against his temple. She says his name. It is the smallest sound in the field, smaller than rain on dust, smaller than a fly's feet. He hears it, his lips move, nothing comes. The breath he has is a small flame in wind. But his eyes find hers, and in them is a whole long road walked without shoes. The steward ties the cloth, one at the shoulders, one at the knees, one under the hips. The knots are wrong. He cannot see it. He is in a hurry. He shouts to move. The men lift. The cart takes the weight. The wheels bite the mud and then roll. "Make way," the junior scribe cries, proud to have a loud job at last. He holds the wet seal high and waves his free hand. People step back. The boy with the reed slips along the cart's shadow. The woman moves beside the rear wheel like a second shadow. The soldier who has watched her all day turns to follow the centurion, away from the cart, because his orders are to clear the posts and then the field. The cart starts for the gate. The wind rises and drives the rain into slanting ropes. The road of tombs shines dark. The cypresses thrush and bow. Thunder rolls again, longer, like the sea. The woman looks at the knots. She looks at the steward's hand on the cart's handle. She looks at the soldier's back. She looks at the boy. He looks back, eyes bright as wet stone. She touches the edge of the cloth with 2 fingers. Only 2. Just enough to feel where the laundress double will spill when pulled. Her hand is ready. Her breath is ready. The world is noise and water and moving feet. They reach the narrowest place in the road between 2 old tombs where the path dips and fills with water. The cart jolts. The wheel sinks. The steward swears. The day labourers heave at the handles. For one beat, every man who can help puts his back in. For one beat, every eye is on the wheel, not on the knots. For one beat, the centurion and his soldiers are 3 posts away, wrestling wet wood. For one beat, The world makes a small crack. The woman meets the boy's eyes, and her fingers begin to pull. Her fingers close on the wet knot. The rope is slick as eel skin, but the laundress double obeys the old law of work: twist, tuck, pull. It spills like water. The back corner of the shroud loosens. The cart jolts again. The wheel sinks deeper. The day labourers grunt and lean. The steward shouts to lift together. Rain hammers every surface, wood, skin, stone, until all sounds blend. For one brief beat, the law looks the other way, because mud demands attention. The woman tugs the second laundress double, one fast, sure pluck, and the cloth opens at the knees. The shroud yawns like a mouth. The boy slides in with goat-foot speed. He finds the slave's calf and heel. He gives one steady pull, not a jerk, like a shepherd easing a lamb from a thicket. The body slides toward the gap. "Mind the wheel!" the steward cries, bent over the stuck rim. His eyes are on iron and mud. The junior scribe, trying to shield the seal from rain, blinks hard and sees nothing else. The woman's hands do one more small thing. She pinches the cloth under the slave's shoulders and rolls it, so that when he slips, he will not drag his broken skin on the road. She does it by old habit, how you pull a sheet when a man is fever-hot and you must keep the sore places clean. She does not think, her body remembers. The slave falls softly into the flooded dip. The water is a shallow brown mirror. It closes over one shoulder. The cold is a bite and a balm at once. The boy's hands are already under him, tugging, guiding. The woman drops to her knees in the water and lifts his head, her palm a cup. Mud sucks at her skirt. Rain stings her eyes. She draws him into the shadow between the two old tombs, where the path narrows and the cypresses bow low like a curtain. The cart lurches free with a shout, men of the house heaving, the wheel breaking the grip of mud. They look forward, they push, they do not look back. They think the load shifted because of the hole. The ragged edge of cloth still on the cart hides the gap for 3 beats, then flaps and shows it. But by then the steward is hunched at the handle, rain in his lashes, head down toward the gate. He swears at the road, at the sky, at the men who slip. He does not count knots. The woman and the boy haul the slave deeper under the stone lip of a little tomb front, a poor one, with a face long rubbed away and letters eaten thin by weather. It makes a small shelter where rain falls in curtains at the edge but not at the core. The storm is loud enough to be a friend. The soldiers are busy with wet wood and angry sky. No one sees. She lays him on his side to free the chest. She slides her scarf under his cheek so the grit will not grind the skin. She puts her mouth close to his ear, and the sound she makes is not a grand thing. It is the low country hum she used when wringing cloth in winter to keep the blood moving in her fingers. The tune is only 6 notes long. "Breathe," she says between notes. "Breathe." He breathes. It is a thin, ragged breath. It moves like a small creature through reeds. It shivers and wants to hide, but it is there. It makes a fog of warmth in the cold space between his lips and her hand. His eyes flicker. They try to find light. They find her face and rest. The boy crouches in the mouth of the shelter with his back to the field, reed knife in his fist, eyes a hard shine. He watches for feet and shadows. He is small enough to look like a rock to hurrying men, and fierce enough to be a dog if a foot comes too close. He sets his jaw and holds the world off with his stare. The woman touches the wrist where the nail went. The flesh is torn and slick. She presses her palm gently over the worst of it to warm and still the shaking. She breaks a bit of cloth and twists it into a ring and lays it around the wound as if making a wall. She knows it cannot do much. She does it anyway because doing is a way to hold the heart together. Water, the boy whispers, not taking his eyes from the rain curtain. She nods. He wriggles out into the storm, runs low, and returns with a palm shell of rain scooped from the stone lip. She tips the wet into the slave's mouth, a drop at a time, the way you feed a bird too weak to lift its head. He swallows some runs down his cheek and meets the rain and is the same. Beyond the shelter, the centurion is clearing the field. Men grunt, posts thud, bars clank, orders cut through thunder. The steward reaches the gate and waves the seal. The guards lift the bar with a curse, and the cart rattles through, toward the house yard, where a quiet corner of earth waits to take what a name will not mark. The clerk, counting his part done, tucks the wet tablet under his cloak and trots after with relief, like dry bread breaking in his chest. The day labourers spit and ask for coin. The storm eats words. The coins change hands, light and cold. The slave tries to move. Pain lashes him even in the small space between two heartbeats. He stills. His eyes are clear for a moment. She sees the boy reflected there, small and sharp. She sees the cypress tips moving like black fingers over the edge of his sight. She sees herself, old and wet and stubborn as rope. She says his birth name again. He answers without sound. The shape of his mouth is a soft round of syllables. He puts the name back into her hands, the way a man gives a tool back to the person who knows how to care for it. She closes her fingers on air, as if closing on wood. She nods once. "I have it," she says. Thunder rolls away. The sharpness of the storm eases. The rain is still heavy but less angry. The worst of the crowd has thinned. A soldier lingers by the road to piss into the ditch and then hurries to catch his unit. Two boys dart in to pluck at a loose rope and are chased off by a thrown curse. The field is becoming again what fields are at dusk, wet, wide, doing the slow old work of holding the world up under the sky. The woman looks down at the slave and reads what the body writes. She has read bodies all her life. Babies blue and slow from hard births, men broken by millstones, women steam-burned by vats, old backs bent like vines. She knows the colour a face gets when a road is short. She knows the sweet sour breath a chest makes when it is done lifting more than one more time. She knows the fine tremble in the lips that is not fear now, but a hand reaching for a door. She does not say, "Stay." She does not say, "Go." She says only, "I am here." He looks at the wooden tag in her hand. She has kept it there all day, thumb hard enough to leave a pale circle in her own skin. She opens her fingers and shows it to him. The letters are crude and deep, cut by a knife that jerked a little when it met the grain. "First thing I made you," she says, "when they took you on the ship. I gave one to the man with the goats and one to the woman who sold salt, and this one I kept. I thought, if gods were kind, all three would find you in some way. But gods are like the wind. You can't tell them where to blow." He blinks. The rain draws thin silver threads on his eyelashes. His mouth makes a shape that could be a smile if there were strength for it. It is not a pretty shape. It is true. "Listen," she says, as if they were standing at a hearth and not in a tomb's mouth. "I cannot give you marble. I cannot give you fire singers or crowned wreaths. I can give you a place where the ground remembers you. I can give you a name, said out loud when the moon is thin and when it is fat, when the goats are taken out and when they are brought home. I can give you water in spring and a stone to lean on in summer and leaves in autumn and a bit of bread in winter. I can give you a line of words the city did not write. He breathes. In, out, the air has to climb over a hill to get in, and then it tumbles down. The climb is shorter now, the tumble is longer." His eyes do not leave her face. The boy looks back from the rain curtain. A soldier's shape moves past at a distance, a grey blur in the grey water. The boy lowers, smaller than the cut grass, and the shape moves on. He glances at the woman. She nods. He slips out into the low light and is gone for a beat. When he returns, he has a small armful of wild thyme, torn from the edge of a tomb, and a flat chip of stone. He lays the thyme near the slave's shoulder. He sets the stone by the woman's knee, like a tool. She takes the stone and scratches at the inside of the wooden tag, making a small notch beside each letter, not to change them, but to feel them under her hand. She puts the tag against her own chest then, under her dress, the wood warm with her skin. "Yours lives here," she says. "They can search me to bone and not find it." The slave's gaze wavers and returns. He watches the thyme. He can smell it even in rain. The clean, dry tang that smells like hills and sheep and old sun. The smell cuts through iron and vinegar. It opens a door in his chest to a morning before marble. He steps through for a breath. His face smooths. His hands, which have been claws, unbend a little. He swallows. He looks at the woman, and then at the boy, and then at the low slice of sky in the tomb's mouth, and his eyes settle in a way that is not a closing, but a sitting down after a long walk. She knows that look. She has seen it on the faces of men who fought their fever all night and then stopped fighting because there was no more war left to fight. She puts her palm along his jaw. She hums the 6 notes again. The boy presses his fist against his lips and stares hard at the rain, so his eyes will sting from that and not from the thing in front of him. "Go easy," she says. "Go with your name." He goes. It is not a loud going. The chest lifts once, twice, and then it does not. The mouth opens a little and then stills. The eyes, she closes them with 2 fingers, and when she does, she sees the boy's face reflected in the wet lids and her own lined brow, and the grey sky and the black slice of cypress tops. She smooths his hair back with the flat of her hand. She sits still in the rain with her palm on his cheek until the warmth under it begins to leave and the cool begins to settle like a sheet. Beyond, the centurion counts posts. Empty, empty, empty. He swings his arm and the men move off the field, shoulders low against rain. He does not glance at the tomb mouths. Why would he? The day is done. He will file the line in his mind. 3, no riot, rain, steward paid. He will keep his boots by the hearth tonight and tell his sons how thunder sounds on the road of tombs. He is a part of Rome's back. He thinks of straight roads and clean orders and the even spread of fear that keeps a crowd from thinking it can be a sea. The steward reaches the house yard, pulls the cloth back from his cart and sees the lightness of it. He stops dead. He stares at the shape of the shroud. He does not understand for a beat. Then he does. His stomach gives a cold lurch, part fear, part relief he won't name. He turns to the junior scribe and hisses, "Say nothing." The scribe, white with rain and tired of the day, nods fast. He will say that the field men unloaded the cart at the curb, and he looked away to save the seal and to wipe his ink, and the rain made fools of all men, and the dogs or boys or gods did the rest. The steward will pay a man at the gate 2 coins to shrug at questions. Tomorrow in the kitchen he will tell the overseer that the centurion took the body early to the common ditch because of storm law. The overseer will puff and then smooth, and then go to tell his own story for a round of sour wine. Rome will keep walking, because Rome always does. Under the tomb's lip, the woman and the boy work in the small, clean way that counters the day's large, dirty way. They take the strip of cloth and bind the wrist where the nail went, not to hide it, but to hold it as a wound that was real. They bind the other wrist's rope burn, which was also a wound of another kind. They tuck the thigh where the peg bit, as if tucking a child in a bed in a storm. They lay the thyme near his mouth, so even what is left of breath can smell hills. They lift him, he is not heavy now, and carry him in the wet dusk, like a bundle of laundry carried home when rain begins. They do not take the city road, they take the goat path that runs along the walls, where weeds hid foxes and broken pots. They pass the old fig tree the slave had thought of on the beam. Its leaves hang heavy and drip slow water, its skin smelling green and sweet. She touches a leaf with her finger and then touches that finger to his hair. It is a small rite that belongs to nobody's temple. They slip through a crack in a fence where washerwomen come to beat cloth at a little runnel that breaks from the main aqueduct and makes a clear tongue of water in the grass. The place is half a mile from the gate, too near to the city for most men to care and too useful for poor women to abandon. There is a willow that leans just so, and a flat stone with a stain from years of soap, and a pile of old potshirts where the edges have been worn to petals by hands. Here, under the willow, they wash him. They do it quickly because dark is coming. They do it carefully because care is the last law that makes the world human. They rinse iron and dust away. They wipe his mouth with their own cloth, not with housecloth. The boy pours water from a cracked jug with a hunter and a dog painted on it. The jug was once someone's fine thing and now is a poor thing that will be fine for this. The woman sings the 6 notes into the willow leaves so the tree will keep the sound and scatter it later as shade. They do not put him in a tomb with letters. They do not have a tomb. They dig in a bend of the bank where roots make a quiet wall and the earth is soft and smells of old leaves. They use the boy's reed knife and their hands, scooping mud, throwing it back, scooping again. Rain helps. The hole is not deep, but it is real. They lay him in on his side, the way poor people lie to sleep when there is no room but there is still sleep. She takes the wooden tag from under her dress and presses it to his palm and closes his fingers over it. She presses his fist to his chest until it stays. She pulls a narrow strip from her own hem and knots it around his hand so the wood will not slide away. She puts 3 stems of thyme by his face, a little line like a path. She looks at the boy. He nods and places the flat stone at the head, not as a marker for passers-by, but as a thing for their own feet to find again by night. She covers him. Mud on cloth, cloth on skin, rain on mud. The willow drips. The water in the runnel makes its old song over old stones. The boy stands with his reed in his belt and his fists open, as if ready to receive something he cannot see. She stands. She wipes her hands on her skirt and leaves brown prints that will dry into maps. She looks at the sky. The storm has moved past. The last light is dull and wide. She looks at the city's line, dark against the west. She looks down at the small mound that is not much to look at, and is enough. What will they say? The boy whispers. They will not say, she answers. They will forget. That is Rome's second power after the rod. Forgetting. We will not. She kneels again. She puts both palms on the new mud, flat, warm, steady. Hear me, she says in a low voice that is not for gods with marble ears, but for earth with worm ears and water with river memory. She says his birth name. She says it 3 times, slow. She adds nothing like son of or slave of or house of. She lets the word be whole by itself. She stands and takes the boy's hand. They step back under the willow. They wait for a count of 100, not for magic, but to make time thick here, so this place will set in their minds like clay baked by a slow fire. When the count is done, they turn toward the city. They walk the goat path home. The woman will reach her door, wet and tired. She will strip and wring her dress and hang it over a rope and sit on a stool with her hands open on her knees and see the day replayed on the dark wall in the lamplight. And then she will sleep like someone dropped into a well and touched bottom and floated up again. In the morning she will carry bread to 3 old men and 1 girl with a cough, because that is what she does. She will come back at dusk with water and thyme. She will go to the willow and say the name again. She will do that on days of rain and on days of dust. She will teach the boy to say it when she is gone. The boy will grow. He will keep reed knife sharp and goats out of cabbages. He will learn the names of winds and the best month to prune, and how to coax a mule to pull when it is tired. He will stand on hot days in the shadow of the wall and remember the rain curtain and how thin a line there is between loud power and quiet hands. He will sometimes step to the willow and run his fingers over the flat stone and say the name in a whisper that is also a promise. The centurion will forget, not because he is evil, but because he has to. If every face stayed inside him, his iron would rust. He will walk that field again and again. He will count other posts and settle other days. When he is old, he will remember the sound of thunder on that afternoon and not know why it sits near a sorrow in his chest he cannot measure with the old tools. The steward will keep his head low for a week and then hold it straight again. He will polish the master's bronze weights and measure oil and speak to the clerk without looking up. He will wear the small iron ring and press the master's sign into wax that will crack with time. He will never be sure if he was robbed by rain or by hands. He will keep that thin, uneasy place inside him like a secret splinter, and he will not pull it out. The overseer will talk big at the kitchen fire that night and laugh. He will tell a story in which he is large. The girls will pretend to laugh and look at their feet, and the boys will learn what it sounds like when a man hides fear in bragging. He will not go to the willow. He does not know it is there. Rome will go on. The rods will be bound. The axes will be sharp. Men will carry charges on planks and speak them at corners. The Appian road will take sandaled feet and cartwheels and mule hoofs and leave white dust on calves. Marble will be washed. Law will be copied in good letters by boys with ink on their fingers. Ships will come. Ships will go. Banners will be lifted. Names will be carved. Names will fade. But under a willow, by a run of water, the city does not count. A small place will remember one man who was a boy, who was sold, who carried water, who learned to walk soft, who did not drop his eyes on the last morning. A bit of time will try each spring where wet meets light. A flat stone will warm in summer and cool in winter. A woman with a map of brown handprints on one old dress will say a name many times into air and earth until the air and earth keep it when her own breath is gone. What does this mean? Not that Rome is weak. Rome is strong. It builds roads that outlast the men who ordered them. It makes law that weaves a net around each day. It stamps faces on coin and sends them into hands far away. But strength and road and net and face are not the whole world. Below and beside them runs another web, made of small things between the poor. Hands on a cheek, a knot that spills at a tug, a wooden tag cut with a knife that shook, a plant torn from a tomb's edge, a boy's body used as a wall for a moment, a name said at dusk. The slave did not get marble. He did not get a line in a book boy's copy. He did not get a parade of oil lamp. He got a storm, a cart, 2 fast knots, a shadow between 2 stones, water on his mouth, a hand on his jaw, and his name kept without the city's leave. He died as many died, on wood in rain. But he did not die nameless in himself, and he did not disappear into forgetting where the woman and the boy stand. If you walk the road of tombs on a day when rain has just stopped, and the willow drops slow beads into the runnel, and the thyme smell is clean, And if you leave the road and step where the poor step and duck under the leaning trunk, and if you put your fingers on a flat stone that is not like the others, warm even when the air is cool, and if you listen very close, you may hear 6 notes hummed into leaves and a small simple word said with a patience that outlasts marble. That word is a name, and that name, kept by hands the law did not see, is how the hidden world of Roman slaves stayed human under the weight of Rome. Their defiance, a quiet craft. Their love, a kind of law. Their memory, a small fire that did not go out. End of story.